Tonight, Kevin Spacey pleads not guilty at the Old Bailey. Good evening. It was the second court appearance in as many months for the actor Kevin Spacey, who today pleaded not guilty to allegations of sexual offences against 3 men. The 62-year-old Oscar winner, star of films including The Usual Suspects and American Beauty, appeared at the Old Bailey this morning, denying all charges against him. Amy Lewis was in court. Next tonight, the airline Emirates has rejected an order from Heathrow to cancel flights to comply with a cap on passenger numbers. On Tuesday, airport bosses pleaded with carriers to stop selling summer tickets because of staff shortages. Well, Martin Stew is at Heathrow for us this evening. Martin, so what does this mean for travellers then? Staying with travel disruption, train drivers at 8 rail companies are to stage a 24-hour strike later this month in pay disputes. In addition, the Grenfell inquiry continued today and heard of the final moments of 2 mothers and their daughters who died together in the fire. Victoria King and her daughter Alexandra, Mary Mendy and her daughter Khadija all lost their lives. Victoria and Alexandra were both classed as vulnerable and were on the 20th floor. Mags Martell reports. Londoners are being asked to check on their elderly relatives and neighbours as temperatures are expected to hit the high 30s this weekend. A heat health alert remains in place for London and the South East, with Newham, Tower Hamlets and Hackney named among the UK areas most at risk from heat waves. Antoine Allen reports. Well, joining me now is Jenny Lippiat from Age UK. Jenny, thanks so much for joining us this evening. We're looking at potentially record highs this weekend, beginning of next week. We heard there in Antoine's piece, London Ambulance saying they're getting more calls from older people. What is it about extreme heat that can be so dangerous for older and vulnerable people?
Harder to regulate their temperature and more at risk from severe illness.
What kind of advice can you give, especially, you know, for people with elderly relatives, but also, you know, they might have neighbours as well if they're living in Florida?
Yeah, so just make sure that you've got light clothes and things like that. Sometimes we might lose our appetite when it's
hydrated, and you know, it seems like a really obvious thing, doesn't it? But then we saw Colin, also in Antoine's report, who has dementia, and actually something like we might take for granted is actually a bit of a challenge for some people, isn't it? So how do
definitely.
Jenny, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Next, a woman who escaped to London from Sri Lanka says she fears for the safety of the parents she left behind as the country collapses into economic and political crisis. Sri Lanka is bankrupt. Last weekend, thousands of people demonstrating over fuel and food shortages stormed the homes of both the Sri Lankan president and prime minister. Faza Shabrina's father has a heart problem and she says he's struggling to access medication. She spoke to Carolyn Sim. So to come, it is getting hotter. We've got the full forecast. Plus, before that, his announcement was less than a week ago, but his unenviable in-tray is already full. Sir Mark Rowley is taking on a Met Police force which finds itself in special measures and with a long uphill battle to regain public trust. So what are some of the biggest challenges facing the new Met Police Commissioner? Simon Harris reports. And Simon is over at the Late Debate studios preparing for his show later. Here's what you can expect. We'll be watching. Well, next tonight, police are hunting a gang of thieves who tricked their way into the home of a Polish war veteran and stole his savings. Jan Stangrachuk, who celebrated his 100th birthday in April, came to Britain in 1940 and volunteered as a gunner in the RAF. The war hero was left shaken after thieves claiming to be from his water company tricked their way inside his home in Ealing, making off with thousands of pounds earmarked for a trip back to Poland to see his family. Ria Chatterjee reports. Now, it's all we've been talking about, so it seems we are getting closer and closer to those peak temperatures at the weekend. Well, let's see what the weather forecast has in store. Here's Ross. The Duchess of Cornwall has been hosting a reception at Clarence House to honour a charity close to her heart. More news on our furry friends and the Metropolitan Police's first ever wellbeing dog, a black Labrador named Dexter, has been honoured for his devotion to the service. Dexter has been awarded an Order of Merit from the animal charity PDSA after being brought in to support staff through the pandemic. Here's Faye Barker. I agree with that for sure. But that is all from us for now. The ITV Evening News is up next. We are back after ITV News at 10 from me and the rest of the London team. Bye-bye.